And so with that, we are now recording. Thank you again for joining us. I want to just bring to your attention on this evening, we will be continuing to monitor the chat field. Just want to want to ensure, Mr. Armstrong, who's doing our technical work, just give me a sign if you can hear me, as I have a message in the room that the sound is not heard on your end.
Yes, sir, I can hear you just fine.
All right, thank you. So thank you again for your service on this evening. So we'll try to monitor the chat feature. Be honest with you, if we get many questions in there, I will respond back to those in another form. If you need for me to contact you directly, I believe that you have an option where you can send a message to me directly. If not, let me give you my email address. My email address here in the county is and that's in Oliver, HOLLEY, at Tyco, TYCO, mail.net. If you weren't able to write it down at this time, you can just go to our website and you can find all of our contact information on the website. But definitely, if you have a more specific question that you do not want to put in the chat field, feel free to email me. So on this evening, I just wanted to bring to you a couple of newest updates to kind of follow up to not only the board meeting that the board had on July the 20th, but the voicemail that I sent out, I believe it was last Thursday or last Friday, kind of sending a little more of an in-depth message about what brought us to where we are, and kind of give some of the parents some insight of how we're going to be moving forward. So as I stated, on July the 20th, we had an emergency work session of the board where I made the presentation to the board that the safest option at this time was for us to look at option C. As I stated, there was a lot of conversation around other models, B. Honestly, I had some conversations around A, but given the recent rate of increase of COVID within our county, looking at the truly documented cases that we have, and unfortunately the death of one of our citizens, I felt that it was prudent to not only maintain the safety and security of our students and staff, but honestly to find some way that we can begin the school year. And so looking at all of that data, looking at 3 to 4 meetings we had with our teachers in the county, formal meetings, where I got information from parents, I got information from staff members, I got information from community members, just around their thoughts of what school should look like in the future. And it was a very hard decision. I'll be honest with you. As you can see, you can turn on the news or read the newspaper. Right now, COVID has basically split our country. You have those that believe one thing about it. You have those that believe something else about it. But what I can believe down the middle, it is my job as a superintendent of Tyrrell County Schools to provide the safest environment for our students and our staff. This is why I made the presentation for option C. I do understand that option C, option A, and option B all have their faults, but we are committed to work through them. So tonight I wanted to kind of give you a little bit of information. It is my intentions, the working with Ms. Curls in our technology department, that we will hold another one of these next week, and we will get that advertised before the end of the week so we can have additional people join us on this evening. So just wanted to bring a couple of things to your attention. How we came to see. We had a series of surveys that were out there, and quite honestly, we had almost 531 respondents. In those surveys, we had individuals that were students, we had individuals that were staff members, we had individuals from our community, and we had employees as well that gave their feedback, parents as well, that gave feedback to those surveys. And overwhelmingly in that, looking at it, when you broke it down, the information that was provided in those surveys was that there was some sense of concern, either greatly or minutely, in our community with bringing our students back into the school building as we were post the COVID-19 shutdown. As you've seen, all of the research that's out there, it shows that our students are less likely to have severe and consequences as it relates to COVID-19, as well as the death rate, unfortunately using this word, of younger population is very low. However, that same statistics and those same data show that our students are one of the highest rates of transmission of the COVID-19 virus. As you know, in our county and many other counties in the East, We have a very large aging population. Many of our students are being raised by grandmothers, grandfathers, aunties, and cousins. And so students leave our school building when they are in an environment with 30 to 40. And then if you look at the whole school, you're looking at 230 some kids, roughly 140 at the middle school and almost 160 at the elementary school, are students of the possibility of transmitting the COVID-19 virus. And so our fear is to make sure, my concern, not fear, was to make sure that we provided the safest environment for Tyrrell County's families. And so that's what led us to that. So a lot of the information that was in our surveys, our parents were overwhelmingly expressing their concerns in those surveys around returning to school as we know it. Quite honestly, looking at our Latino population, Latinx population, overwhelmingly 80%, I believe it was in that survey of the parents and actually of the parents that were surveyed, voiced that their concern was highly concerned about students returning to school. Once you looked at our English survey that went out, you had numbers as well. And if I can, I believe I can share my screen so that I can actually give you a little bit more information around what I was just sharing. Bear with me, let me make sure, and hopefully I don't mess this up. If I believe I did this correctly, you should see a return to school survey. This is the breakdown of what we actually had of our families in the community. As you see, 552 individuals filled out the survey. Let me make sure that I have it. I saw a hand raise. Mr. Ziegler, if you could jump in, if you could unmute yourself.
Sorry, sir, that was an accident.
Technology, man, I apologize. Well, at least I know you were paying attention. I'm sorry. Well, that just proves that I am monitoring the chat field. But as you can see, we had 521 individuals to complete the survey. If you look at the survey, let's deal with extremely comfortable. You had 28% of our families were extremely comfortable of bringing the students back. You had 19% that were comfortable and ready to return. And then if you look at the demographics, you see uncomfortable was 19%, and then you had 33%. Looking at this is the trend we were looking at as far as our survey, as this was one part of us looking at it. We had a lot of individuals that were, that it was running almost 50-50. As you see right here, these numbers are very, very similar. We actually broke this down and looked at the respondents based on how many were identified as parents, how many were identified as students, and how many were identified as community members. Once you took that into account, and I hope that I'm able, and you see the current screen, once you looked at our parents and family members, overwhelmingly you had 36% of our parents that took the survey were extremely uncomfortable. You had 21.3% of the parents were also uncomfortable, but they were unsure with you looking at the guidance and the guidelines. You look at our students, overwhelmingly, our students were very strong. I guess they're ready to get out of the house. They were willing to come back. Also, if you look at our overall breakdowns, you see the overall breakdown. So it was very close. It was a lot of information that we got from this, as well as I like to call, the food line conversations in our community as well. So overwhelmingly, looking at our couple of surveys there, as well as the information that we got just from principals, talking to teachers, and information that we had in during this process. I'm sorry, I was almost about to kick Ziegler out. So Ziegler, I'm gonna just let you stay right there. So I don't know how to take you out without Xing you. So I'm gonna leave you right there. But looking at those surveys, that's how we came about it. So I gave the board, so you will know, I gave the board about 6 options with option B. And those options were looking at us splitting the county right down the middle by Highway 64 and operating the students on a rotational basis. Through those different modules, you were looking at bringing kids in maybe 3 days a week on an A schedule, then another group of kids could come in at B. Keeping in mind that all of this was going to be with us looking at the current guidance from what we have called the Lighting Our Way Forward document, as well as the current and ever-changing information from the CDC. To be honest with you, we have documents from those 2 organizations that we got early on in this planning and discussion process, but those documents continue to change. One of the biggest concerns to us when we started looking at Plan B as an option was the cost to the district once you looked at transportation. In order to transport our students, the guidance started that we could put 2 kids on a seat if they were related to each other. Then it changed to we could put kids on every other seat, alternating seats. Well, if you have a 32 passenger bus and you can only put 1 child per every other seat, you automatically cut your ridership down. So we were looking at having to run, in some cases, possibly 2.5 bus routes to get students back in school at the appropriate levels based off of the CDC guidance. Please also understand that under option B, we could not bring every child back in the building. However, looking at it, if you spaced out everyone in the building, you could get very close to bringing our whole county back. But with that, you're putting about 230 some kids back in the building with the potential spread of COVID-19. And so we did a lot of research. We ended up actually solicited the help of one of our architecture firms in the state, Mosley Architects, and we had plans drawn up to give us a classroom count of how many kids we can put in a class based off of 6 feet and 7 feet distance. This also took into account that we will be losing different areas in our buildings that would no longer be used for their purpose. You would be looking at transitioning cafeterias over into classrooms. We will be utilizing the gym and other extra spaces within the building for actual instructional purposes. So you very well could have been set up where we would have had classes operating in the gyms at both the middle school, high school campus and the elementary campus. So teachers would technically, I went into school back in the day, be cart teachers. You would have the teachers moving because based on those current guidelines, you were going to have to limit the transition of students throughout the building. So with all of this and the extra PPE and the extra materials that we were looking at having to purchase, that was also a part into it as well. To be honest with you, each one of those documents that I was stating, the Lighting Our Way Forward and our CDC guidelines, they are all located on our website. If you go to Tyrrell County Schools website and go to the COVID-19 tab, you can access those documents. However, I will caution you that if you read it tonight, I guarantee you by Friday, it would have changed twice. And so that was some of the things that was changing that allowed us to kind of look at it, as well as how can we best provide instruction for our students. And that's how we came to C of a couple of just minutes of conversation. So I know you're asking, I keep talking about C, I keep talking about C. You've heard we're going to C. What is C going to look like? I would tell you that our principals and our staff members are still working very hard to solidify what C is going to look like for your children. I will tell you that we have kept in mind that we have internet capability issues within our district, and we understand that all families do not have Wi-Fi, or even like right now with the clouds up in the sky, even if a cloud gets over your satellite, that slows it down. So we have gone out, we have taken an action of trying to go out and we've secured additional Wi-Fi hotspots that we will deploy to our students that they can be used at their homes, and understanding that we still could have some connectivity issues there. But we are also continuing to partner with the local library as they have hotspots that are available for our families as well. Our teachers, and we have actually ordered flash drives so teachers will preload lessons that will be sent home with the students so that they can have those resources that do not cause them to have to use internet. I do know that internet, as we stated, is an issue, and I do know that we have families with great internet. However, if you have a family of 5 at home and everybody's on this great internet, we know that it slows down to, as someone said today, as slow as a turtle. And so we're very cognizant of families that do have internet that we cannot burn up and use up all your data, because that will in turn cause an issue with you as well. So what the instruction, I can tell you, I can't give you the final plans as of tonight because all of our principals and administrative teams are continuing to work. But essentially what you're looking at is you're looking at a condensed day of instruction with assignments to reiterate and reinforce the face-to-face virtual instruction that our teachers will be providing. Our principals are working on schedules, and they'll be seeking out additional input of our teachers, where teachers could be virtually teaching about 45-minute blocks with their students for those that can gain internet access, but also recording those lessons so that students can also access it. But they will also be providing links to additional information to help parents and help students get their assignments done. I do understand that this is all new to all of us. Please understand that Tyrrell County, we're not the only ones working to promote this plan. We are one of 116, 117 school districts in the state of North Carolina, and we are all doing this. But I can tell you one thing, that our teachers here in Columbia and right here in Tyrrell County, they are very active, they are very caring, and they have been suggesting information to our principals ever since March 16th. Each one of our principals have reached out to our staff members to gain their feedback. I've seen several working documents where teachers have been asking, all right, Principal A, that sounds good, but how can we tweak it to make it fit this way? So the instructional blocks that you're looking at, you're going to be looking at face-to-face through virtual platform, which we call Google Meet. You will see that, but you will also have assignments that your students will have a chance to work on throughout the week. Looking at attendance. Attendance is one of the things that we're trying to make sure that we can accurately account, because if you were in the building on a regular school day, you would just count the students that were in the seats. So we're working on a plan through all of the principals. Some of them are devising plans where there's lessons or different assignments that have to be turned in by a certain time that day to quantify or allow us to show that your student is in attendance for that day. Please understand that grading practices are still going to be enforced. Students are going to be required to submit information and assignments in a agreed upon time. However, we understand that we have to be responsive to our community. If there's a storm that comes through and we lose internet access for 2 hours, we're going to work with you on that. So parents, please understand that this is flexible. Looking at some of the plans today, you're going to have students that may be getting instruction face-to-face with their teacher 3 to 4 times a week. But then there also be reach outs and small group instructions, and those individuals that are in AIG and EC, those students will still be getting their services. We're actually looking at to see if there's action availability for students to be able to come back in a small group environment. And when I say small, I'm talking about like 2 or 3, to come back to get some of those EC services, as we know those services are so important to some of our students. Some of those services will be conducted by phone. Some of those services will be conducted by Google Hangouts or our Google platform and Canvas. So we're going to be working on different ways that we can meet the needs of all of our families. It's not a one shoe fits all for all of us. We are going to be flexible. Our teachers are going to be flexible, as many of them have taken this summer to go through some training around virtual instruction so that they can be better practitioners in deliveries of instruction in this new format. You have some school systems that have been doing virtual for years. Tyrrell County, we have not been doing virtual from this magnitude of a standpoint. We've been using programs like Edmentum through our CTE program in the past. As you know, and one of the things for Mr. Ziegler, as I see his name, one of the things that we found out today for our students to take classes at Beaufort has now announced that all of their fall semester classes will be online. So if your child is taking classes at Beaufort, they will be utilizing all of their classes, I believe, outside of any labs. All of their instruction will be taking place virtual Blackboard. So as a community, and as I say a community, I'm including Beaufort in it, we are all forced to change. But I'm asking that we have your support as we move forward with those changes. Looking at my notes here, and let me check and see if there's anything. And once again, please make sure that you have any questions, you can submit them in the chat feature down at the bottom, and I will continue to watch them and try to address them. And thank you, Mr. Wesley, for addressing that one question that was in the chat field. I'm gonna pause right now. Are there any questions that any of the individuals on the board, if you have, on the board on us tonight with Zoom, that you may have, I can kind of answer them. If you see the raise your hand feature, I would try to promote you to ask your question. If not, actually, I prefer if you could just put them in the chat room. And I'll pause for a second to see if there's anyone and give you time to put those in. I'll continue to monitor that. As you chat and type, if you do have any, one of the things that I wanted to bring to your attention is if you go to remote, the first thing that everyone was thinking about, okay, well, if you're remote, what are you going to do with all your staff? I can tell you that the board and myself and directors, we are committed to keep all of our individuals in our district in the district so that we can meet the needs of all of our students. We are working, and we hope to have additional information on tomorrow morning as to if the state is going to allow us to utilize our yellow buses to provide meals for the remainder of this time that we're out on the Plan C. If that is the case, many of our classified individuals will be served on our buses as they were prior to our stopping of feeding for this for the summer feeding program. So many of our teacher assistants, many of our building level assistants, many of our tutors were assisting us in riding the buses to help deliver the meals. It is our duty and our charge to try to make sure, as the state has actually classified, for us to repurpose our employees so that we can ensure that they maintain their employment within the district. And so we'll be working the next couple of days to work out those plans so that teacher assistants, bus drivers, and everybody will know what that is going to look like. The reason you have not heard it from us, and I'll just be honest with you, I cannot approve for us to run buses and feeding them if the state has not allowed us to utilize our funding to pay for that. If we did that and the state did not allow us and grant us, and I know that the governor had a press conference today, and I honestly missed it because I was in our open bid meeting for another project we're working on, but I'm gonna go back and follow up on those notes. But if the state does not allow us to utilize our transportation funding to run meals back home to kids, that cost then goes on the county. And I cannot approve that because our county budget will not support us carrying the cost of running our buses and not being able to use our state dollars. And so that's why teacher assistants, you're waiting to find out what we're going to do with you, and bus drivers, you're waiting to find out what's going to happen with your positions, because that is something that I have to make sure the money is here. So let me check the question here. So the question is, students in kindergarten, how will they know if they will have live Zoom classes, or will they be, his classes be? So for the elementary school, I just met, and I hope to have this clarified and more solidified by the first of next week, so we can get it out to the parents by the first of the month, as I definitely know that we're all up against a gun, and our time is drawing nigh. But kindergarten classes, and if I'm not mistaken, I think our numbers, we have about 35 kindergarten students that have never set foot in a learning environment. And so we're looking at a way to utilize employees within the district at the school, teachers and certified teacher assistants that could possibly do some small group instruction with those students online. So in addition to them having time with their teacher of record, we're looking at supporting them through additional supports for those pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade students. We're looking at doing that because we know that those are the very integral points of a child's learning experience. So without giving the final plan, I can tell you that we're planning to put additional supports in addition to the time that they will be meeting with their teacher. But as of right now, a lot of that will be on Zoom. And it will be scheduled, and you will be getting a full, I want to say matrix, but you will be getting communication from the schools once we finalize all three plans and have it buttoned down. We will be sending that information out, and I hope to get that out to you the first of this upcoming week. But please understand that we can create all the plans we want to, and once we actually implement it, we may have to tweak it. As I've told the principals, these are all working documents. We can design everything in the world, but once we actually put everything in effect, we have to sit back and we have to monitor it and make changes. I will tell you this, though, to that question. We took a lot of the information from our remote survey that we got from individuals about the pros and cons and the good, and the information that, you know, kind of was just scary for parents when we shut down everything in March. A lot of parents asked for us to give them more links to be able to help their kids, because quite honestly, a lot of the feedback was, you know, it's not your job to be your child's teacher. And I'll be honest with you, I kind of took that to heart, and I was like, yes, it is. But then I realized after talking to a parent, they didn't mean that they didn't want to teach their child. What they were meaning was they don't have or have not been trained in the skill set that our teachers have to be able to deliver instruction to the level they know their child needs. And so once I took my hat and I sat back and I realized what the parents were saying, I was like, you're absolutely right. So we all know, I know, and I would love to wave a magic wand and get rid of COVID and bring every one of our babies back. Because I know that having them in the building is the best thing to have them in front of our educational professionals as much as we can. There's no way around it. I mean, there's no way you can convince me that that's not the best learning environment. I know that. However, I know that right now is not the safest time for us to be able to do that. But I can tell you that I wish the state had told us we could work C, B, and A, because that's honestly how I'm planning and how the board is looking at it. We're looking at starting here and being able to find a way that we can ease our kids back in through plan B, and then from plan B to eventually plan A. So I hope that answers the question as much as I could. Okay, I see it. Thank you. I hope that answers you the best way I can. Looking at the question that I have now, information on highway classes with BCC are online. And I'm a Zig, if you have any additional information to that, everything that we saw, and if you need to, I'll unmute you. So I'm here to unmute you, Zig. You can jump in if you need to. But everything that we have seen recently, and even in the email as of a few minutes ago, that the online instruction for Beaufort is going to be online through Backboard. I'm going to yield to Mr. Ziegler.
That's correct, Mr. Holley. So Beaufort announced today that they're going to move all instruction for the classes that our students attend to online learning. So they're going to have their instructors record their lessons or live feed their lessons through their learning management system, which is Blackboard, which is similar to our Canvas. And our early college students are familiar with Blackboard. That's what they've been using all this time so far. So yes, Beaufort is moving to online instruction for the fall semester.
Thank you, Mr. Ziegler.
Yes, sir.
And with that, as I stated, we're all changing. My alma mater, Elizabeth City State University, Elizabeth City State University, home of the mighty Vikings, the colleges are having to change. We're all having to change. We know that it is a change for all of us, but I can tell you our staff is committed to making this as smooth as change as we can. Where I was going, and I see another question, I'm gonna jump in. Where I was going was, we learned from some of the things and some of the work and the feedback we had and got from parents and students from our earlier March shutdown. As I was talking earlier, parents asked for additional links, additional feedback. They wanted office hours. I can tell you without a doubt that all three principals have designed plans that have office hours where they're making their staff available and themselves, making their staff available, instructional staff is available for parents and students to schedule time to ask questions about those assignments. I'm gonna be honest, I believe that in this format, we're gonna be more tuned to what the families need, because now we're being able to offer you a specific block of, in some cases, possibly 2 to 3 hours where you can schedule a time that we can meet your needs. Whereas in a regular school day, you kind of really had to wait to catch us on an email or wait for us to actually put in place a parent night. So I believe that this opportunity will allow us to better serve our community, even though it's temporary, but it will give us a chance to make that one-on-one connection. I was having a conversation with a principal today about how we can integrate fun activities with the kids. I was reading an article where, an elementary teacher has planned a wacky sock day for when she or he did their virtual instruction to the students. So one of the things is, it's not going to be just all instruction for the kids. We still have to find ways and avenues to build those relationships with our families and our students through this digital platform. So yes, parents, you might find a day where you got your kids sitting in there with a straw hat on, and you like, why in the world you got the straw hat on? Well, today is wacky hat day for class. So we're still going to have some of those opportunities and provide those to the kids, because we need for this educational experience to be as fun for them as it was. I made a comment the other day. I was talking to some friends and I actually made it on social media, but we've got to figure out how to grab our students' attention at the same level that PS4, Nintendo, and Xbox and iPads and as the EA Sports with Madden, they figured it out. All of us as parents that kids have these game consoles, our kids could be on them all day long and not say a word, and probably wouldn't even get up to go to the bathroom and eat. They would do it. It's going to be our job as educators to find a way to hook those kids the same way those video games have hooked them to keep them engaged. Let me check the chat field. Sorry if y'all saw my finger, I have a touch screen. So there was a question in the field here. Will there be a possibility to have Zooms after regular work hours? This would be a big struggle for students who work or parents that work on a different schedule. So to answer that as a parent, this does allow that to happen. In the conversation I was having today, and we've kind of hit and miss with our principals because they've had a lot going on, there could be an opportunity for that. I know that looking at several other districts that did remote learning in the last cycle, there were actually students that had classes on a Friday from 4 to 5 o'clock. But that was because it worked out for the parents in that class, and it was prearranged with the teacher so that the parents and the students knew that on this day, you would have a class maybe at 5 to 6. But all of that works in planning. And so my design and my plan that I'm having conversation with the principals is teachers should be able to notify families on Fridays what the upcoming week is going to look like. Because truthfully, I know that there's still some families that may be traveling. I do know that there are some families that because of childcare in our small community, you have to go out and find childcare for your child because you still have to go to work. Well, little Susie may be at grandma's house on Tuesday. Well, you as a parent need to know that previous Friday what the schedule is going to be back for that week so that you can make appropriate moves as a parent. And so we're trying to do that so we can get it out to be a help to our families as we know this is a struggle. I mean, I looked the other day, you know, and I was in a conversation with someone and they were telling me, you know, just realizing how many limited childcare facilities we have in the community. Now, I know that we all have grandmas and cousins and best friends and shade trees that may, you know, watch our kids. But even right now as a parent, we're very leery of where our children are going because of the COVID. So yes, to that question the parent just asked, there is an opportunity for this to be scheduled, you know, even after the traditional hours, because keeping in mind, it is not our desire to have your child online staying at a computer screen from 7:30 to 3 o'clock. What we're doing in our planning is we're looking at trying to get chunks of time during the day so that kids can get face-to-face instruction, but also providing them with lessons that they can work on and communicate with their teacher either through email, or through a platform that allows the kids to touch back. There's different program softwares out there right now that we're using to communicate with families that we're going to have to look at utilizing in a bigger space. There's some out called Remind, Blooms. There's a whole gamut of them, but there's ways that students can communicate. So yes, there is an opportunity for those classes to be scheduled at different times. But that's something that we're going to finalize and work with our staff. But great question. Let me check the chat field and see, did we have any of the additional parents? Helms, I see Ms. Helms, and I saw Ms. Matthias. Ladies, if you have anything that you would like to share, knowing that we're still making finalizations to the plan, and we hope and plan to get those out earlier part so parents can start making plans. Is there anything that you would want to share? If so, please raise your hand and I will promote you into the room. If not, that's definitely understandable. As I watch the thread, parents, let me share something with you that we've learned through this COVID. And quite honestly, I had some teachers to remind me of it as well. In this season, we're going to have to move as a school district as we've never moved before. We're going to have to continuously find ways to make sure that we get information to you in a timely fashion so that you can make your changes, because your life is technically not stopped with COVID. Our teachers' lives have not stopped with COVID. And that's one thing that we've been cognizant in our planning is we have teachers that have students of their own, their children that they have to teach. And so us being flexible with our class groupings and our class times and our class offerings is keeping in mind that our staff are parents too. And you still have responsibilities as mothers and fathers and grandfathers and grandparents and aunties and sisters and brothers, but you also have a requirement as an employee of Tyrrell County Schools. I also understand that about 33% of our teaching staff actually live outside of the county. And if they live outside of the county, you may have kids in the surrounding school system. So you're trying to juggle and figure all of that out. This is a very difficult time. I understand for all of our families. It is a difficult time for us as families. It's a difficult time for us as educators, but it's a great time for us to be innovative in our approach to education. Are we going to hit some bumps? Yes. Are we going to get some things that we need to go back and tweak and make better? Yes. The only way that we're going to be able to do that is that you give us your feedback. I gave my email out to the parents earlier of this call. I have no problem with you having my email. Matter of fact, I'll give you my cell phone number. I'll text it in. I think I can text it, but if I can't, my cell phone, my district cell phone number is 252-796-7488. And I apologize, I was just looking to make sure I gave you the number. But once again, my district cell phone number is 252-796-7488. I have no problem with you texting me if you have a question as a parent. I just will caution you because I may not have I know I don't have your number saved. Please give me your name so that I can properly address you if you have questions through text message. You have my email. My email address is Holley, and that is O as in Oliver, my first name, HOLLEY at Tyco, TYCO, mail.net. Please send me an email. The only way we're going to get this right for the next 6 weeks or for the next 9 weeks, or if we have to extend it, is getting your feedback and taking that feedback and making meaningful corrections to anything that you bring to our attention that is going to provide the best educational opportunity for your student. So with that, let me check my notes to see if there's anything else. I do believe I have one second, just checking my additional notes to make sure that I did not miss any of my information for tonight. Those are the topics that I have for tonight. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work with my team to find another day next week to have another one of these. It is my intentions to have another town hall, work with Ms. Curls for those individuals that weren't able to join us tonight to find a way that you can provide questions and I can address them on our next call. But I really want to just take time to thank you for joining us. I didn't want to take up a lot of your evening, but I did want to take a couple of moments to share what we could share. We're in the process now. Thankfully, we got an additional $12,000 in our allotment where we're going to be starting our feeding program back up, being able to deliver meals to our families. That money is being allotted to us that we can use it up until our first day of school starting back up. So Ms. Myra and the food and nutrition team, we're working on a plan with our transportation department to get our buses back on the road in the next couple of days so that we can bring meals back. Please understand that this week we still have summer feeding going on. You can walk up, you don't have to pay anything for our students from the ages of from birth, I think it's to 18, I believe. They can walk up to the high school. We're set up every morning where they can get a hot meal, they can get a hot lunch, and they can get a breakfast free of cost. You just walk up, you can get it. It's grab and go. We're practicing all of our social distancing. Our staff has face masks and hand gloves, and we sanitize the area. So please keep that in mind. We are also working on, sorry, I had another message to come in. I apologize if I zoned out a little bit, but I had another question come in the field. Let me check. There was a question about can we post these? Yes, we can. I'll check with the folks that are way smarter on the tech than I am. I'll defer to Mr. Wesley and them. I believe that we can post them out. But yes, we will work on trying to get these housed on our website so those people that may join us next week, they can kind of listen and see what we kind of talked about this week. But yes, great suggestion. I think that was all I had, y'all. I apologize. I think I was in mid-sentence, but I did not want to miss whoever's question was coming in the field. But with that being said, thank you again for taking a couple of moments out of your time this evening for us to have some type of conversation. I know that this is a guessing time. I know that you see larger districts have put things out, and I'll be honest with you, I've been in communication with those superintendents in some of the larger districts, and those plans that have been put out have been changing. You have several school boards that announced they were going with B, and as of today, we have about 2 school systems in our region that have changed their plan Bs and are going with plan C with an option F. I've seen one district that's changed from plan B to plan C. So all of this is changing. All of it is changing. But you have my commitment as your superintendent, because I work for you, that we're going to do everything that we can to provide a safe learning environment for our students and our staff, and a quality education given the platform that we have to operate during this season. So with that, I hope that you have a safe and enjoyable weekend. Please pay attention to our website, social media. We're going to send some phone calls out during our electronic all call to let you know when we'll schedule our next meeting. But I will definitely have some more updated information that I can provide for you on that evening. But on tonight, thank you for the 33 individuals that have joined us. And I hope that this was a benefit of a help to you. If not, you have my email, you have my cell phone, and you know where the office is. Thank you and have an enjoyable evening.